One of the best ways to get time leverage is to create online courses and membership groups and things like that. And in today's episode of Unleash the Awesome, I'm thrilled to have my friend James Wedmore share some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they try to monetize their message online. James was born and raised in sunny Laguna Beach, California, and now resides and runs his business in the beautiful Red Rocks of Sedona, Arizona. For the last 15 years, James has leveraged his expertise to help digital CEOs build and scale their online businesses through courses and trainings like his signature program, Business by Design, as well as many other business building trainings inside of James's abundant course library. And you'll hear in our conversation some of his history, where I ran into him years ago and how he has mentored and coached me to help me build my online empire, and he could do the same for you. So enjoy this conversation with Mr. James Wedmore.
Welcome to Unleash the Awesome with Dave Gambrill. All of us have unique skills, talents, and abilities that aren't being used to their full potential. Our mission is to share the people, tools, apps, and other resources that will help you unleash your awesome on the world.
All right, so James, thank you so much for joining us on Unleash the Awesome. I'm thrilled to have you here. And I thought maybe we'd jump in, in your bio, it talked a little bit about you have this successful Business by Design program that you have a bunch of other successful things online. You've been doing this for close to 15 years now. But I think it might be helpful for people to understand a little bit of your background, because I think sometimes they see people online and they go, wow, okay, that guy, he's so awesome. He's so successful, kind of like an overnight success. But I think it might be helpful for my audience to understand that this was not a straight path for you. Like there were definitely some detours along the way. So would you like to share some of that with the audience?
Yeah. And obviously I won't, belabor you with the whole story. Would be here for a couple hours, but from the Cliff Notes version of this, straight out of college, I went to film school. I really wanted to go into Hollywood and the film industry, and then went to film school and said, never mind. Just was completely disenchanted. So I'm like graduating from this super expensive school that like my parents spent all their money on. And then of course I had debt accrued already by the time I'm 22 and graduated, and no future in what I had just spent 4 years doing. So I did what, anyone would do. And I became a bartender. So that's what I was doing. I was bartending the day shift at a restaurant called On the Border, which is like the Mexican food version of Chili's. So I was just pouring beers and margaritas at the day shift during the week. And I kind of hated my life. But I was always entrepreneurial by nature. So I was always like willing to try things. And I was always a little crazy like that. So what I started doing was I'd basically be like a guest at the bar, and you get to know a few of them. And then I'd say, well, why don't you hire me for your birthday's coming up. Like, why don't you hire me to bartend? And before I knew it, I was bartending at these like private events. And then one day, like I registered my business on Google. And then of course, they're selling your information and stuff. So I get this phone call from this SEO guy. What's a SEO? Oh, SEO. Oh, search engine optimization. Okay. And this is circa like 2005, 2006. This is a long time ago. And this guy, this is so funny. He basically says like, well, we see that you have your business, and it's called Beach City Bartending, where I was bartending at private events. And we can actually get you ranked at the top of Google. So when people are searching for you, they'll find you. And I'm like, wait, what? Really? And so obviously this guy's calling me because he's going to sell me a service on how to rank the website. So I just asked him, I said, well, what is it you guys are going to do when I hire you? And he told me. He's like, well, we put the title, the keywords here, and we put them in your titles, and we put them in the description. We optimize each of the pages for all these things. And he spent an hour explaining to me what he's going to do with the service. And he's like, so are you interested? And I was like, let me think about it. And I went in and put keywords in my title and put them in the description and changed all the things. And within like a week or two, if you were to type in Laguna Beach bartender, Orange County bartender, Southern California bartender, bam, my website popped up, and I started getting phone calls every single day. And before I knew it, I had a staff of 15 bartenders and cocktail waitresses. We were doing bar rentals and, all these other services and stuff. And we were booked solid all the way up and down the coast. And I was in business. And that's how it got started. And I was doing that and loving it. but also there was a part of me realizing like it requires me. It's taking up my weekends. I was still young. So I was like, I don't get a Friday or Saturday night. And there's still this like trading time for dollars thing. I was like, how do I get more? And I felt very like capped with like, okay, this is working. And then I hit a ceiling. I want to grow more. And I kept learning and reading books and everything like that. And trying to figure out like, what's the next evolution iteration. And it was November of 2007 when the light bulb hits. And it was, I bet I could make more money teaching people how to bartend than bartending. And that was the night I came up with the name Bartend for Profit. I was living in my parents' house still because I wasn't making a lot of money bartending and not enough to live on my own in Laguna Beach, California for sure. And I basically went down to my room, locked myself in there for about 4 months, did every mistake you could think of. But when I came out, I had a business called Bartend for Profit, and it was an online bartending school. And I got my first sale in April of 2008. And it was like April 18th to be exact. It was the greatest like moment of my life because I was in business, and it was the start of a journey. And that's how I got started. Now, everything I look at is a really interesting phenomenon because it's what I call the leapfrog effect. Is that everything is just preparing you for the next thing. And a lot of people are waiting for the finished product before they can get started. Let me get the clearest plan of how this is all going to end up. That's like saying, let me watch the end of the movie first before I sit down and watch it. That's not how life works. That's not how movies work. And I realized everything was, I didn't realize this until much later in life, but everything was preparing me for the next thing. And so what happened is people started buying my bartending school. And it wasn't cheap. It was $200 to learn how to bartend from me. And then, when you buy something online, it says, how did you hear about us? Mm-hmm. Well, I had that on, and people started answering, and they said, YouTube. And I was like, really? And I had that film degree, and I was putting stuff on YouTube, and this is
there it
2008, 2009. And there it is all coming together. And I started going to events and talking to people, and they were just like, they thought it was so funny and so neat that I was like this bartender guy. And then they're like, well, what are you doing with all these videos? This is amazing what you're doing with the videos. And I remember I just asked the $1 million question. It's actually like the $10 million question because we ended up making a lot of money off that program. But this person was blown away by what I was doing with video and YouTube, primarily YouTube. And I said, wow, you seem really impressed by this. We take ourselves with us wherever we go. So we take a lot of our knowledge and our skills for granted. So I was taking it for granted. I wasn't valuing it. And when I saw the expression on this individual's face, I asked that question, really, that was valuable? Oh my gosh. Yes. I go, would you have paid for that? Are you kidding? And that's when I realized that was the next light bulb. Okay, maybe this is my next evolution. And we launched a product called Video Traffic Academy in 2011. It did $400,000 in sales in the first 30 days with a $97 product, and went on to be a multi-million-dollar business. I went on to become known as the YouTube guy. And
of which I'm a proud alum, by the way.
I know. And that's crazy because that's so long ago in internet years. That's like generations ago,
and to give people some idea, you were teaching people how to do videos on a flip cam. Like we didn't even have iPhones. We didn't have, phones that had video cameras in them. So we're using a flip cam. And I don't know if I ever told you the story, but I was in that course and you were basically saying, get comfortable doing videos, just shoot videos for X amount of days. I don't care what you talk about. Just do it, get used to it, upload it, go through the process. And I actually did one that landed me on Good Morning America for showing people how to fold a bag of chips closed without a chip clip. And it's like, I don't know, it only has like 60,000 views, but it's still out there on YouTube. And somebody on Good Morning America saw it and asked me to come on a couple of years ago and do it. It was all because you said, hey, just go get comfortable in video. And I'm sitting there in a suit and tie on my back porch on break from work, showing people how to do this. And that all started because of Video Traffic Academy.
Yeah, this is amazing. And what's so beautiful too is there's something about having that online course, being the creator of that course, the teacher of that course, that puts you in another like level or echelon in the ripple effect of opportunities that come from that. Because if I fast forward to 2013 and I get a phone call from a gentleman by the name of Carl Deichler. And for anyone who knows, Carl Deichler is I don't know if he's the founder. I think he might be the founder, but CEO of Beachbody. At the time of the phone call, it was a $500 million a year company. And he's on the phone with me and he's like, dude, I'm in your program. I got your stuff. And I'm calling you because with our $500 million a year company, we have 120,000 Beachbody coaches and I got to get them your stuff. How do we work together? And I started noticing all these opportunities coming my way from that, speaking on stages and a lot of opportunities that I say no to because I keep my life as simple as I can. And I like to just stay focused, keep in my lane and all that stuff. But a lot of opportunities that keep falling on my lap from that. And the funny thing that like shifted all of that to the next evolution and just to say it in a nutshell was, like we built it to $1 million. It was amazing. I'm like surfing half the day and making one video a week and then like playing and traveling and having a blast. And there was this individual who kept reaching out to me. He's kind of like annoyingly bugging me. He just kept asking any way he could. He'd get in a DM or a comment or a Facebook ad or a email like, dude, will you help me? And I was just kind of saying, no, like I have my $97 course. That's it. And, it's like, no, I want to learn how you did and what you did. And then I thought I had a really great idea. I was like, I know what'll scare him off. I'll just put a price tag on it. I said, sure, I'll help you. It's 10,000. And he goes, oh, thank you. Okay, here you go. And then I had my first client right there. And so sure enough, he paid me the $10,000 and I started teaching him everything I was doing to build this business. And he had been going for like a year or so with nothing. And in the first 45 days, we got him generate his first 30,000 with his digital product. He went on to do 6 figures that year. And 2 years later, he was at 7. And watching that unfold, I was like, oh, wow. Like I'm helping this guy like at a whole nother level. Before I was just kind of helping people make videos of how to roll up their potato chips in their backyard, and that was wonderful. But this was like something bigger, something deeper, something more. And I was hooked. And so I started teaching more of that. And that's what I'm doing today is helping people with that. And where I get most passionate and obsessed with today is how to run it like a business. I think we got a lot of people out there that are not running their business like a business. And instead it's running them into the ground. And, yeah, that's kind of the nutshell version. It's how do you condense 14 years, but I'm doing my best.
Yeah, but that was amazing. You did pretty much a year a minute. So that was good. But what I want people to understand though, for clarity, because I say this a lot and I've heard you say it a little differently, but like you can't score if you're not in the game, right? You can't none of these epiphanies come to you, or none of these people quote come out of the blue, or opportunities if you're not on the path, if you're not out there doing it, because you can't see it. You're not aware of it. Like that stuff is probably happening all around you if you're sitting on the sidelines, but you can't see it or feel it or touch it or be a part of it. But because you were walking the path, all of these things kind of set themselves in front of you and you were able to recognize it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people need to understand is you don't need to get it perfect. You don't need to wait for the magical sign. You just have to get in there and go. It's, I
think a great metaphor is to use a baseball analogy here. I've been saying this for years. I call it at-bat moments when you're up to the plate and, the pitcher's getting ready to throw the ball. One of a few things is going to happen, right? You're either going to hit it or you're not, basically, to simplify it. And most people don't step up to the plate. So that's great, because if you don't step up, you won't strike out. Hey, that's probably why we're not stepping up to the plate. But there's no way you're going to hit the home run. And so life, or business rather, and life, of course, you could apply this to dating. You could apply this to many things, but you're going to vastly increase your odds of success if you simply step up to the plate and have more of those at-bat moments in your life. The more you step up to the plate, the more you increase your odds of hitting a home run. Yeah, you might fail. You might hit strike out a few times. Of course, that's unavoidable. That's inevitable. That's going to happen. And what really separates the successful from the unsuccessful, you can't find someone who's successful today that was like, oh, no, I have a perfect record. I've never had a failure. I've never had something that didn't work. It doesn't work that way. We all have. It's just the difference is they keep going. They go, okay, let's try. That didn't work. Let's try again. And when you look back at that story, like what I didn't share is all the failures between my bartending stuff to Video Traffic Academy. It's an innumerable amount of things that did not work. But there was a level of commitment there that I was not messing around. Like I'm going to make this happen one way or another. And I don't care how long it takes. That's what it requires. That's a powerful place to be operating from. Most people don't have that. They have one failure, setback, letdown, and they go, oh, I guess it wasn't meant to be, and then they give up.
Yeah. So speaking of failures and giving up in your bartending thing, I know that you have learned since you went down and locked yourself in a room to create your bartending course that you do it a little bit differently now. Because I think a lot of people do it the way that you did it initially, right? Where they're like, I have this great idea. Everybody in the world's going to want it. Let me lock myself away and do this for 90 days and launch it to the world. And inevitably what happens is nobody wants it. So yeah. So yep. Could you share kind of what you've learned and kind of what you teach a little bit differently around that concept?
Yeah. My whole philosophy today too is like, it took me a long time to get where I am. I made a lot of mistakes. And if I could get you there faster than I got there, if I could get you to avoid some of the things that I did, then I've done a great job. And this was one of the big ones. There is only one person on the planet that has ever taught how to do mobile bartending, and that's me. There's a reason for that. Not a big niche, not a big marketplace for people that want to learn how to start their own bartending business. So it's only ever been me. And if anyone ever came to me like, James, like now that you're not doing that, is that like a open field of opportunity? I'm like, nope, it's not. Now I made sales. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I get 2 or 3 sales a month. I was making about $600 a month. Can't really live off of that, but it was enough to practice. It was enough to learn and figure this all out. Here's what I would have done differently. I would have tested it. And this is what people aren't doing. They're spending more time creating than selling. And you're really not in business until the sale is made. So let's start there. Stephen Covey in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Habit number 2 was begin with the end in mind. So we created a process called monetize before you make it. And people think I'm crazy. People think I'm nuts. People get upset. They get all like triggered when I tell them this strategy. And I don't understand why. But it is what it is. But let's use the metaphor of Kickstarter. I get stuff on Kickstarter all the time. And Kickstarter is a great example of this. It's brilliant. Someone comes up with an idea for a product. One example is I bought an electric bike on there. They design it, they create a prototype, and then they go to some manufacturer, and the manufacturer says, we got to create the mold, and we're going to need all the components, the materials to get your first batch. It's going to be $200,000. And they say, I don't have $200,000. So they go to Kickstarter, and they say, hey, we need $200,000 to get these bikes made. If you donate at least a minimum of this amount, we'll give you a bike. Boom, they're in business. Why this is so brilliant is because they have mitigated risk from a time and financial standpoint like you wouldn't believe, and they validate their product. Obviously, people aren't going to give them money if they don't want the bike. They don't want the product. So if no one wants to buy the product, then they just avoided a giant disaster of fronting all this money for something that doesn't sell. And so if you could take the philosophy of what these people, I mean, businesses, very successful businesses have been built off Kickstarter. And it's either that or the Shark Tank way, right? You get someone to get a fraction of your company. I would rather go the Kickstarter route. But obviously with a digital product-based business, you don't need capital. You just need, let me say it this way. You don't need financial capital, but you do need timed capital. And time is more valuable than money. You know that. So why invest 6 months of your time like I did to create a product in your basement, or like me, my parents' basement, to find out no one wants it when you could actually get people to buy it before you make it? That's the Kickstarter approach applied to our business. We call this monetize before you make it. And it's as simple. This is so simple. I can teach this right now and you can run with this. You basically, it's embarrassingly simple. You go, here's how I would do it. My newest business I've started is an Airbnb and real estate business. So we started in May. Wow, it's been 12 months exactly. 12, 13 months. So I could sit here and say, for the past 13 months, I've been able to build a multiple six-figure business around a couple of Airbnbs. And a lot of my students and followers have been asking me how they too can get started profiting from Airbnb. I'm thinking about putting together a training class helping those who are interested launch their first and profitable Airbnb business. This is something I'm probably going to turn into an online course or training program and probably charge around $2,000. But for my first iteration, I'm not going to charge anywhere near that. The price for the first 10 founding members is just $500. And that is the thing is I'm only taking on 10 founding members. If you want to be the founding members of the program and have me walk you through 8 weeks of live coaching on Zoom on how to set this up, it's just $500. But once I fill these 10 spots, it's done. If you're interested, send me a DM and we can talk about the details and get you signed up. But once I get my 10 people, I'm closing this thing down. That's the founding members launch. That's the monetize before you make it. We don't need a sales page. We don't need a product. We don't need anything. We just have that message. That's how I basically lovingly shove my students into the deep end of the pool and say, don't worry, you'll swim. Because people are going to start saying, I'm in, I want money. And you're like, oh my gosh, people want to get, I've had students that are like, people are trying to give me money. What do I do? I'm like, take it and serve the crap out of them. Yeah. And I wish I had that from the get-go, because here's what happens. 3 things happen when you do that. And these 3 things are vital to the future of your business success. Number 1, you get proof of concept. You've just proved it or not. What if no one wants it? What if no one wants to do this? Then you just saved yourself 6 months of hell, of wasted time in the wrong direction. So you get proof of concept. You also get profit up front. I don't know about you, but I don't want to work for free in my business for 6 months. It's not how I roll. It shouldn't be how you roll too. A lot of people are just working for free in their business. We need to be selling more. We need to be marketing more and not just doing and creating more. That's just a lot of people are doing. And then number 3, you get social proof. So you get proof of concept, profit, and social proof, which means you're going to walk away at the end of this with people that are saying it worked. Here's my results. And it's testimonials and case studies that are going to sell the crap out of your program when you launch it again.
And that's so amazing. So amazing, powerful. I hope people paid attention to that. If you need to rewind it and listen to it, like that is so key, because one of the stopping points I hear from a lot of people too is like, I can't afford the tools necessary to get my course online or whatever. And I'm like, if you did what James just taught you, you would have the seed capital that you would need to go get whatever platform it is you're going to invest in to make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. So this has been amazing, James. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And I know that you have something coming up, a video series where you're going to teach some of this stuff and so much more. So do you want to share that with people, and I'll give them a link where they can access it?
Yeah, totally. I wanted to create something years ago, after I told that story of that first client. And I was teaching them all this stuff one-on-one. I'm like, here's what I do here. And here's what I do here. And this is what I did here. And I'm the kind of person that I don't like to do something twice. So, I started to say, how could I systematize this and put this all together? And, teach this as a model. And that's what we do. So in my free training, I just break down the entire model, how we do it. I teach my students to look at their business, not as their baby. A lot of people look at their business. Oh, my business is my baby. Obviously, the problem with that is a baby needs you 24/7. Otherwise, it dies. Yeah. And that's how a lot of people approach their business. It needs you 24/7 or else the business dies. That's not a good business to work from. So we invite our students to look at their business like a machine. That machine has gears. These are interlocking systems that work together. It's an input and an output. And we just show you how to put that business machine together. This creates more profitability. This creates more scalability. This increases performance of sales, marketing, performance. And the series, the training is me live. We're just walking you through how to do that. We have a lot of fun with that. The goal, the aim is always every year. And the feedback is, a common theme is that our free training is better than most paid trainings out there. We love to bring it, but a big reason why we bring it and to get that feedback is I think the thing that gets me the most excited about it is it's there's like a personal transformation that happens. You kind of come out the other side with a new perspective. So a lot of people are just focusing on here's what to do and not who to be. I make a big emphasis on we have to think differently about things if we want things to change. I say how you see business determines what's possible for you. And a lot of people see business through the eyes of an employee, and they don't see the opportunities that are right in front of them. They don't see, it's a very counterintuitive approach. It's a very different way of thinking. And so I think people will experience, if they're doing the work and exercises and paying attention, they'll have an opportunity to have an own personal transformation. Your business is a reflection of you. Okay. So when you change, those changes are reflected in the business, because who's making the decisions? Who's taking the actions? Who's driving the ship? That's you. And when that begins to shift and change, that ripples out and affects everything in the business, from bank account down to audience growth and all that type of stuff. And so we make a big emphasis on that. It's free, it's fun, and yeah.
And I've been through it a couple of times myself, and some people from my audience have been through it and they love it. It's called Rise of the Digital CEO, right? And if people go to gamble.com/DCEO for digital CEO, they can get access to it. I'll make sure it's in the show notes wherever you happen to be catching this. So James, I appreciate your time. Is there any other last requests or call to action for my audience before you go?
No, I think that's it. I think one of the things that will help people too is when you're registering for that, we created a really cool one sheet dashboard. I ask most people, hey, do you have a dashboard in your business? And they're like, huh? And the metaphor I like to use there is like a pilot flying a plane. The pilot needs to know the dials and the important metrics. I know nothing about flying, so I wouldn't know how to go any further with that metaphor. But if the pilot didn't have all those dials and odometers and all those widgets and things on there, the pilot would quite literally be flying blind. And most people are flying blind in their business. They don't know what metrics matter. They don't know their KPIs. They don't know what they actually need to focus on improving that will improve their bottom line. And so we created a one sheet dashboard. We're going to help you fill it out in the free training, but you can start to fill it out on your own now, where I speak to the 3 core functions of your online business and the metrics associated with those 3 functions, and the role that you need to be filling, the responsibilities that are yours in the business. And it's very helpful just to give people clarity, simplicity on your business. So it's like, can you put your whole business model on one piece of paper? And that's what we help you do. When you do that, there's a lot more simplicity and clarity that you're running from. So you're going to get that for free as well. And that's going to help tremendously.
Amazing. James, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you so much for your time on tonight's podcast. And thank you so much for this amazing training series that you're doing. I know the people that lean into it will get a ton out of it if they take the actions that you request of them. So thanks again, my friend. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Dave. And thanks everyone for listening and tuning in.
Thanks for listening to Unleash the Awesome. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please share us on your favorite social media platforms using #UnleashAwesome.